Hello, I'm Orla Allen, medium and author. If you haven't already, please go back and watch my previous videos on tarot. I quickly ran through the Knight, Page, King and Queen in the suits, and I just want to go back over them because 10 minutes just isn't long enough for somebody who can ganch as much as I can. Okay, so we're looking at the wands. Wands, if you remember, are your work situation or how you spend your days. So we have the Page, we have the Knight, we have the Queen, and we have the King. So the Page is very much talking about the message. The Page has this element of motivation. He's got this naivety of youth where he believes that anything is possible. He believes he can achieve his goals. And while I talk about the naivety of youth, there's very much the element with this card where that naivety helps us to move forward and helps us to make progress. The Knight of Wands, he's moved forward a little bit, he's making his progress, but we're also looking at the horse and we're looking at the situation round about. There are 5 leaves on his wand or on his stick, which talks about growth, and 5, as you know already from the other videos, talks about where you're at a crossroads and you've got decisions you need to make. So there's an element with this card where he's rushing forward on the horse, because the horse's 2 front paws are up in the air. So perhaps he's just powering on and he needs to stop and make a decision about what it is that he wants to do or how he's going to progress with his working situation. Then we have the Queen of Wands, and the Queen of Wands talks about where things are a little bit more settled. We've got the positivity of the sunflowers on it. We've also got the support of the 4 kind of lions. You've got 2 above our head there. I don't know if you can see it with the shine on the card. There's 2 above our head there. And then there's 2 down here at either side of her. So that gives her 4 lines, which talks about more stability. It talks about security. The line talks about courage and strength. So yeah, she's a very strong lady. I'm saying she, but it could be male or female. Then we have the King. Now, the King's not looking at the situation, he's looking off to the side. So he's not really focused on what it is he should be focused on. He is just kind of preoccupied with everything that he's having to do. So this could be where somebody is really busy at work and they don't have time to think about mortgages and they don't have time to think about, houses and families and what they're actually going to spend their money on. They're just trying to get through the day. Maybe they're working ridiculous hours. Maybe they're working too many hours. But that's what that card's about. Moving on from the Wands, we have the Pentacles. So where the Wands was talking about the work, the Pentacles are talking about the finances or the abundance. So the Page of Pentacles is the messenger coming forward to talk about your finances. And he's kind of the one that's going to be spending your money on you. So just be careful with this card that how you spend your money is wisely. There's an element of motivation and an element of kind of youthful vigor with this card. So just make sure that what you're spending any large amounts of money on is what you should be spending the money on and not just a kind of whim. Then we have the Knight of Pentacles. Now, this is quite a positive card because the horse is standing still. So he's stopping and he's thinking. He's not rushing forward. He's taking the action he needs to where finances are concerned. Or he's doing his research and finding out the information that he needs to know about whatever the situation is. Then we have the Queen of Pentacles. And the Queen of Pentacles comes forward. The Queens tend to talk about emotional, whereas the Kings talk about kind of being more structured or being more... The King tends to be more working from his head than his heart, whereas the Queen works from her heart. I think that's what I've been trying to say. So the Queen is looking at the money. She's thinking about how she can spend it. And she's thinking about all the wonderful different things that she can buy with the money. Whereas the King's holding on to the money and he's kind of looking over the top of it and past it. So I kind of feel like there's this element of him wanting to bank some money or him wanting to create a nest egg for the future and not necessarily spend it on all the things that the Queen wants to spend it on just yet. He's trying to make sure that he has control over the situation. If you notice where his foot is, down here at the bottom, it's sitting on top of some sort of animal. So he wants the control. He wants to have security for the future. And then we have the Page of Swords, and swords talk about your problems and issues. The page talks about coming at it with the motivation of a young person, someone with innocence, someone who doesn't, whose life hasn't kind of beaten down yet. And that's what this card comes forward to say. You know, make sure that you have all the information, make sure that you have all the wisdom, the knowledge. Yes, we want to move forward, we want to make progress. We're not afraid to make decisions with this card, but just make sure you have all the information before you make those decisions. And then we have the Knight of Swords, and this card kind of scares me a little bit in the sense that, you know, he's not really thinking about anything. In the previous set of cards, we've seen the horse standing still, whereas he's definitely not standing still in this. He's charging forward, he's got his sword raised. And when a knight has a sword raised, it usually means he's heading into battle or he's fighting. And when you're in that kind of aggressive mode, then you're not really thinking about things. You're not thinking clearly. And that's kind of what this card feels like. He's not thinking clearly, and he needs to think clearly before he makes progress. And then we have the Queen and the King of Swords. And again, the Queen of Swords is talking about coming from the heart, and the King of Swords is talking about coming from the head. Now, she's kind of looking to the side, so perhaps she doesn't have all the information, or perhaps she's not looking in the right direction. Perhaps there's something which has her mind preoccupied, whereas he's looking straight on, so he's focused on what it is he needs to do. He has control over the situation. Perhaps he even has more wisdom or knowledge about how to deal with it, or perhaps she is coming at it from a place of the heart, so she isn't dealing with the problem. She's wanting to fix the problem, and maybe there's just no fixing the problem, and that's why she's looking off to the side, whereas he's more methodical with it. He knows what he needs to do, and he maybe just needs to kind of pull the ripcord and jump, whereas she will perhaps rather not have to do that. And then finally we have the cups. So we have the Page of Cups now. And again, this is coming at it from the youthful motivation, where we're not afraid to take chances. But we also still have that hope of the perfect. We have this hope that the relationships that we're in can be exactly what we want them to be. There is an element of growth here with the fish coming out of the cup. And there's also this element almost of, I don't know what word to use other than the one that's in my head, which maybe isn't appropriate for TikTok. I'm just going to have to say it. There's this element of kind of cockiness with him, of this self-assured kind of energy with him. Then we've got the Knight of Cups, and he kind of, unlike the previous sword card, the horse isn't moving forward as quickly as he did in the previous card. So there's a reluctance here to move forward with these emotions, to move into that phase. So perhaps this is where a gentleman isn't as ready for a commitment as perhaps he should be at this stage. But he is moving forward and he is moving towards it, which is quite good too. There is the element of water on the ground, which is talking about his emotions, and there is this big mountain he has to climb. So I feel like he's maybe closed off to dealing with his emotions at this time, but he is trying to make the progress that he needs to be able to make that commitment to whatever the situation is that he's trying to commit to. And then we have the King and Queen again. And again, the Queen represents the emotions, the heart, and the King represents the mind. And again, she is looking off to the side, but she looks kind of happy, whereas he doesn't look as happy as she is. He's kind of looking over. It's almost like he's looking over to her to kind of follow her lead, because he's not sure. Again, these cups are talking about emotions and relationships, and she's holding hers, and it's almost like her prized possession, whereas he's not really sure how to handle his or how to deal with his. And if you look at hers, she has an awful lot of more detail in hers, whereas his is just a basic simple cup, which kind of suggests that she has worked with her emotions all through the rest of the deck. She knows exactly what she's doing. She knows exactly what it is she wants, whereas he hasn't. He's been closed off. He's just been working with his mind. So he has an awful lot more of a journey to do. But look at his foot. He's about to dip his toe in the water. So there's always this element with these cards of where the men are making progress. They're moving forward. They're allowing themselves to move a little bit more heart-centered than perhaps they were previously. So there's that element within all these cards as well. So I hope that all makes sense to you, and I hope that answers the King and Queens a little bit better than perhaps I did in the original videos.